Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call the September 21st, 2020 Lacey School Board meeting to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting was advertised on the district website on September 17th, 2020, and by posting the notice in the Forked River Post Office and the Lenoka Harbor Post Office, and by filing a copy of the notice with the Lacey Township Clerk as required by the Open Public Meeting Act and New Jersey State Legislation A 3850/S2294. Mr. DeGeorge, roll call for attendance, please.
Sure. Mr. Scanlon.
Here.
Mr. Peters.
Mr. Peters is present. Thank you.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Present.
Mr. Polino.
President, good evening.
Mrs. DeSenza.
Mrs. DeSenza present.
Mr. Riggs.
Present.
Mrs. Downing.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. DeGeorge. At this time, we're going to open the floor for any audience members wishing to make a comment on agenda items only. You will have the opportunity now. Mr. Merman, would you like to review the rules?
Sure, Mrs. Downing. We'll be
Thank you.
accepting public comment on agenda items only. Any other public comment must wait until the next public comment portion of this meeting. The time limit for public comment is 5 minutes per speaker. You'll be allowed to speak a second time when everyone else has completed their comments, should you choose to do so. Anyone who would like to comment at this time is instructed to virtually raise your hand by hovering your mouse over the Zoom view screen and finding the raise your hand button in the bottom of your Zoom app. If you're calling via telephone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. You will be called to unmute your microphone and speak in turn. All right, Mrs. Downing, so I see that we have Anthony Rizzoli. Please unmute your microphone, state your name and address, and begin your public comment on agenda items only.
Good evening. I hope everyone is safe and well this evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Under item A, new business, page 8. I'm sorry, number 8, page 4 and 5. Last meeting, I had a question about the type of filters, and Mr. Peters said he was going to be doing a building review and to make sure that proper filters were in all the buildings. But I do see that tonight, under new business, we had some expenditure for HVAC systems that were worked on a couple of different schools. And my question is, in reference to this, are these HVAC systems repairs or upgrades due to Corona?
Want me to handle that, Mrs. Downing?
Yes, Mr. DeGeorge, thank you. Excuse me.
Good evening, Mr. Rizzoli. I hope you are well too. The what you're looking at in item 8 has nothing whatsoever to do with the coronavirus. It is really a series of repair and replacements of various HVAC systems, components rather, in high school and the middle school. Typically at the beginning of the year, we will, in conjunction with our contractor for HVAC, Mr. Oliveira, and they will assess, and we have a budget for said repairs and replacements. And those are what you're looking at right now. I don't know if it helps at all.
Well, I just was, again, I was concerned that the ventilation systems in the school, when the kids, if and when they do finally get into buildings, you know, are okay to enter the buildings and be safe, along with not only the students, but the parents, the employees, the teachers, you know, and anybody who's in the building. So again, I wanted to know, was it a repair or an upgrade, or just for clarification, for
Right.
ease of mind?
Right. Some as you can see, are repairs. They don't warrant replacement, and some others are replacement of compressors and a motor, for instance, replacement of some controllers for the JCI, the Airedale unit repair. So it's basic things that we go through and assess. It is, again, nothing to do with coronavirus.
Okay, good.
But,
Good. The only other question I had, you answered last time, was whether they had the HEPA filters, and you said that they all did.
yes,
So that's that. Under section F, page 14 and 15.
Okay, section F.
Yeah, non-certificated personnel.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know what happens if a special needs student doesn't show up for school. Does the para still come to school prior to the school day starting? Or if so, do they stay there without the student there for them to take care of and are paid? Or is there a way for the special needs student parent to notify the para directly, my child will not be in school today. So therefore, there's no need for the para to report, and in my opinion, no need for the para to be paid. No work, no pay. So just something I was thinking about. Or is it still under the same as I asked last time and we covered in the minutes? And the superintendent was going to get back, but I didn't see anything yet. Not the teachers. I'm not talking about the teachers, because the teachers are working remotely and working their buns off. I understand that. Okay. I'm talking about other employees in the district that are not in the building, are not working a full day every day, being paid still under that state of New Jersey policy that they were being paid at. If they're not working, are they being paid? And then I thought about, well, what about these children who are all compromised one way or another, and the likelihood of their attendance may be less than a child who's not compromised one way or another, not going to school as often or regularly? Would the para still be getting pay if there's no one to take care of?
Dr. Clark, would you like to address that?
Sure. So, Mr. Rizzoli, you asked a lot of questions, so let me try and go in order. The first question you asked is, if a special needs student who has a para is not in school, is that para getting paid? So I think what I hear you saying is these are one-to-one paras, because paraprofessionals, unless they're specifically assigned to a student as a one-on-one, they're servicing a lot of students and they're working with a lot of teachers. So if one student doesn't come to school, certainly the para is certainly going to report to work. In some instances, and it's very individualized as special education is, a student who requires a one-to-one, let's say if that student chose remote, then yes, that para is going to continue to work with that student remotely. And it's going to be very, very few instances where a para would not come to work because a student isn't coming to work, because our paraprofessionals work so very, very hard. And we have lots of students who have special needs, and we're always going to utilize the services of our paraprofessionals. Not to mention that many of our paraprofessionals have been assigned bus duty and temperature screening. So that's what they're doing in the morning.
Okay,
As
well,
for the second part of, go ahead.
no, that's all right. Go ahead, continue.
Oh, okay. The second part of your question, I think what you're referring to is A3904 that I discussed several months ago, when you specifically asked whether those people were going to get paid. As far as I know, the A3904 is still in place. However, what's different is that everybody's working and has been working since the school year started in one way or another, whether, it was delivering lunches or preparing lunches, teaching remotely, paraprofessionaling remotely. Even our coaches have been working. So right now we don't have an instance where there's a group of people not working.
Okay, there was also questions about complete custodial staff. I'm sure that they are, but security of the building, are they NGAA members?
Well, you're talking about the class 3s. No, they're employed by the police department.
Okay.
Our class 3 started today. Yeah. And then we have one school safety officer that is employed by the school district, and that individual started today as well.
Okay. Thank you for that information and that feedback. I also have questions about policy. Let's see, policy 1648, page 3. I had talked about this last time, but I just wanted to bring up something again about, I didn't see where that particular policy covered sports. I brought it up about, sports, but sports fans. If they were going to be coming into the building, would there be requirements made to them the same as to our teachers or anybody else coming into the building as far as being tested and wearing masks? And, you guys are still doing things remote. So I know you have concerns about coronavirus for yourselves. I have concerns not only about you, the teachers, and the employees of the district, but also about parents and athletic fans who may be attending some of our extracurricular activities, including outdoor. If you're going to stand in line at a concession stand, did we make any recommendations or provisions for distancing, social distancing? Do we require the use of masks at any outdoor, or is it enforceable under just state law and state mandate for coronavirus? These are the kinds of stopgap measures that, is kind of both inside and outside the educational purview, but it does affect the whole community in a way.
Sure.
So
yeah, and that's a good question.
Okay.
Right. So that you make a good point, and yes, that is our responsibility. And yes, we are going to put in place all of the protocols that we've put in place so far for our students and our staff. However, the one thing that I need to note is that our fall sports are all outdoor, and those sports that are indoor, like gymnastics and girls volleyball, is a fall sport that has been postponed to February 2nd. So where it typically would begin in the fall, it's now not going to begin until February 2nd to eliminate having those athletes and potential fans be indoors. As far as fans outdoors, there are limits. That number is 500. And I know that our athletic director, Ms. Del Vento, has been working through the NJSIA guidelines to make sure that we're following all of the safety protocols that not only are recommended in our school reopening plan, but also by the NJSIAA. And so as we approach our first competition, we will be sure to have all of those protocols in place so that everybody knows exactly what they're doing.
Well, okay, that's good to know, because I know that, especially with football season, on the cusp of starting, there's going to be a lot more than 500 people probably who want to go on now that there are lighted fields and go to the concession stands and everything else. And it may have some enforceability issues. Also in reference to concerns about Corona, under attachment 12 and under attachment 14 on the agenda, there's concern about the B12 addresses bus rules, but nowhere in the bus rules stated does it say that masks are mandatory. I think personally under the attachment B and attachment 14, which addresses the school health office rules and regs, that there should be an agenda amendment to the regular letter that would go out during this temporary period of concernability in reference to mask wearing and mandatory mask wearing and the ability of the nurses to demand or enforce mask wearing. It's I don't see it mentioned anywhere in either one of those two attachments.
Right. And so I believe you're talking about all of the handbooks to include the
No,
bus
not the
handbook, correct?
handbooks, not the handbooks. This is attachment 12, which discusses bus policy and how you are supposed to
Yeah,
act on the bus and whether you're a
Right.
good
You're talking
little
about the
girl or a bad little
the bus
girl.
rules handbook.
Well, okay,
Right?
if you
You're
call it a
talking about the
handbook,
bus
I
handbook.
didn't, it's only two pages, I think. That and
Right.
the,
So
and the-
let me
ahead.
talk about that. Let me answer your question. So if you notice on the cover of not only that document, but all of our handbooks, we've added the paragraph, please refer to the Lacey Township School District School Reopening Plan located on the district website, which includes district-specific protocols related to the 10 critical areas of operations outlined in the New Jersey Department of Education Restart and Recovery Plan. So we did not make reference to mask wearing and coronavirus and a pandemic. That was intentional, just like policy 1648 was intentional, because we could have very easily asked Strauss Esme, who is the author of our policies and regulations, to sprinkle in all of the regulations as they relate to the pandemic. But that would have affected hundreds and hundreds of policies. And when the pandemic ends, we would have then had to have gone back and revised hundreds and hundreds of policies and all of these handbooks, because the pandemic's over and it's going to end. Instead of doing that, we added that paragraph to the cover of every handbook, asking our school community to refer back to the school reopening plan, which specifically addresses mask wearing and social distancing and everything that goes along with the pandemic.
Okay,
So
that
that is on the cover of that document.
Actually, Mr. Rizzoli here, I'll jump in for a minute too.
Sure.
So for 1648, although we did a first read last month on 1648, it's back again this month for another first read. We made some changes to that 1648 already. Specifically A1A, initially it read, this is a transportation section. Initially, it said if the school district is providing transportation services on a district-owned school bus, but is unable to maintain social distancing, a face covering must be worn upon entering the school bus by all students. Now, the new read that's coming out tonight is A1A says, if the school district providing transportation services on a school bus, a face covering must be worn by all students upon entering the school bus, unless doing so would inhibit the student's health. Necessary to acknowledge that forcing the use of these face coverings may be impractical for young children and individuals with disabilities. Exceptions to the face covering requirements shall be outlined in A2D. I won't go through those right now, but it does address that. And it's also in here about visitors, which is under which is under 2B1, where if a visitor refuses to wear a face covering for non-medical reasons, and if such covering cannot be provided, the individual at the point of entry, the visitor's entry to the school or district facility may be denied. So
district facility, good wording. So
All
if I
right.
go to a football game and I don't have a mask, get out.
It's a facility.
Just gave us something. Yeah, it gave us something to work with there. So I don't know if that cleared it up for you at all, but
Well,
it is
it gives
back on
you-
tonight.
It gives you a tool, which I was concerned that there wasn't enough enough arrows in your quiver. Okay, but it seems like you heard what I had to say and you took some positive correction, and I'm impressed with that. I'm happy with that. Again, going back to what the superintendent said about the cover and what it says on the cover, I would reinforce that with signage. Okay, maybe something on each bus that says you don't get on the bus without a mask. You know, and it's a matter of you got to do it in this way. If a parent says, well, I didn't see that, it's right there at the door.
Right.
So thank you very much for your time as usual. I'll let you all continue with your meeting.
Thank you.
Dr.
Mr.
Clark, I'd like to add on top of what Mr. Rizzoli said regarding the fall sports. I have a concern. If we're pushing back the fall sports to spring, do we have coaches that coach multiple sports that are now going to have to hire somebody to cover because you can't coach 2 sports at once in the spring?
Okay, can I ask you, I don't mean to be rude, but can I ask you to hold that question so we can get the public done with their questions, and then we'll come back. I'll make
Yeah,
sure you're
sure.
first.
Ms.
Thank you.
Downing,
All right.
Ms. Downing, can I
Thanks.
just add one thing?
Who just said that?
Steve Decker.
Oh, go ahead, Steve.
And Mr. DeGeorge can correct me if I'm wrong, but when Dr. Clark and I toured the buses, there was a sign on the bus at the entry of the bus that said masks are required.
Good. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Merman?
Okay, if there's anybody else that has comment on agenda items only, we ask you to raise your hand at this time. We'll give you about another 15 seconds or so before we move on. Okay, Mrs. Downing, seeing none.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. And now we'll move on to board questions and comments. And Skip, I'm going to start with you since you had that question, okay?
Yeah, thank you so much, President Downing. It was just the fact that I had showed a concern that I know some of the coaches coach multiple sports. And are we prepared, or we should be prepared, that since we're pushing the fall sports off to the spring, are there coaches that coach spring sports that are now coaching a fall sport and a spring sport in the spring? That's all I wanted to bring up. It just popped in my mind as Mr. Rizzoli was discussing that. I'm like, oh man, are we ready for that?
Yeah. Right. But Mr. Peters, as a reminder, though, it's not all the fall sports. It's gymnastics and girls volleyball that's not being pushed into the spring. February 2nd is not spring. It's still winter. And I'm sure the athletic director, Ms. Del Vento, is going to take a look at that to ensure that we don't have any overlaps and then address it accordingly.
Hey, what indoor sports are we going to have for the fall?
None. No
Okay.
indoor sports for the fall. Everything. So the fall is boys and girls soccer, boys and girls cross country, field hockey, women's tennis, cheerleading, and competition cheer. All can be done. All's outside.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Peters, since you have the floor right now?
I am good. Thank you so much.
Okay, Mrs. DeSenza, you have any questions or comments for agenda?
Yes, I do. Item 17 says cost to be determined. When will we find out the cost of the Bonnie Bray School? Item 17.
It's specialized school, Dr. Clark?
That's a good question. I don't have a date, Mrs. DeSenza. I'll have to ask Mr. Bond that question. I don't know.
All right, because it's probably going to be a big number. I was just wondering what it would be.
Can
My
we
other-
vote on it if we
Find out.
don't know an amount?
Apparently so. It's on the agenda.
Yeah, should we table that?
Should we table that one item?
We could? You want to table it
We don't
until
have
we
a-
have an amount?
Unless
I
we put a
think that-
cap on it.
Mr. DeGeorge, can you weigh in on, do we know why that's TBD?
Sure, I think it's CBD because of contract. I don't have contract yet, or Mr. Bond hasn't provided contract yet. I think they wanted to approve the enrollment of the child.
That's what I was thinking.
Right.
It's a placement, so if we table it, I'm just concerned that we may not be able to place the student.
Then
It's
we
just
have to
hard
go
to
through
vote
with
on
it.
something if we don't know what we're voting on.
Well, it's a twofold item. It's to vote to put the child into that school. We just don't know what it's going to cost at this particular moment.
Yeah, when that is determined, though, as we do with transportation, we'll put this back on as an update with
With
the
the
actual tuition
number.
cost.
All right, so if we vote on it tonight, it's for the child's placement.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we'd vote on it next month for the cost. That's
Yeah.
kind of,
Yes.
Okay. I have another question.
go ahead, Regina.
The new high school, the middle school, and the Mill Pond student handbooks. I wanted to know for sure, have all three of those detailed documents been reviewed by the board attorney? And are we assured that there is no overreach within those handbooks?
They were
Right, that's a
reviewed by
great
the
question.
attorneys.
All three of
Mhm.
them?
They were.
Yes.
Mr. Decker and I met with the board attorney, specifically looking to ensure that they are aligned with our board policies, and they are.
I was more concerned with civil rights issues within.
We actually review them specifically. for
Very
that.
good. Very good. Okay. And with regard to the dress code within those handbooks, I hope it's enforced in a fair and equitable manner. That's usually a very hot topic among parents. And the technology program handbook, was that also reviewed by the attorney?
It was.
The technology program handbook, was that also reviewed?
It was.
Okay. There's some very old curriculum materials on attachment B13. Are all of those older items still appropriate for current use?
Which items
So
are you
we-
referring to?
Anything that has a date that's like ancient, prior to 1990, there's a few.
Mr. Decker, do you want to
Right, so we-
address that? We talked about that, correct?
We
Yeah,
did
well-
in curriculum, and we've cleaned that up significantly. There are some materials on there that are still outdated, and every year, as we're building the budget, we place those items on in our budget build to replace them. But we can only do what we can do.
I understand that, okay. And I've asked before, and I'm going to ask again. We got over 100 pages of policy to read with this agenda. And I've asked that the board be given the policy meeting information right after the policy meeting so that we have adequate time to read and digest all the information, because I do like to read everything. And this was a very voluminous agenda, and these were new policies that really needed to be looked at. And since it's electronic, it's not paper, it just has to be blipped to us in a second. But I'd really like to have the information before an agenda, not with, if possible. And the last question I
Noted.
have is there going to be time for a candidates night this year with the Close-Up Club?
Yes, I just had a conversation about that today. Obviously, like with many things, it's going to look a little different, but plans are underway to put a candidates night together. So more information will be forthcoming very soon.
Thank you very much. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. McAvoy, anything?
Yes, I'm sorry. In the superintendent's report, we have the enrollment and attendance as of September 2020. Is there any way for the next meeting we could get that to include the virtual students compared to the in-person students? Dr. Clark?
We will take a look. Yeah, we'll take a look and see if we can break that out.
Okay, that'd be great, just so we can see how many are staying home.
So, right, so broken down between who's attending the AB cohort and who is on all remote, right?
Yes, please.
That would be great.
Thank you. Once again, I brought this up last time, the substitute pay. Am I able to get a list of what we're paying right now and when we raised the pay last year from what to what? I'm just waiting for that, correct?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep, we're going to get that to you this week.
thank you. I have, Mr. DeGeorge, I have a question about just, Bill, the Scholastic magazine bill. I'm sure I wasn't here, but when I was on the board a few years ago, we decided not to pay for Scholastic news magazines because everything's electronic and virtually now. When did they go back to purchasing Scholastic news?
As far as I know, several years ago. I'll take a look into it again and get back to you. I really don't have enough information to answer that question right now.
Okay, and I'm going to put that on the curriculum agenda also.
And was that a teacher request to have it in as paper or?
It
Yes,
looks,
it was.
this is Downing, it looks like it's for the whole seventh grade, it's a big amount.
Wow.
It's more than just one
It's
teacher.
not the primary, it's not your elementary.
Seventh
primary.
grade. I think it's seventh
Okay.
grade.
It
Right.
was for the middle school. I remember the request.
Okay.
We'll put it on for a curriculum agenda.
It's
Thank you.
on page 17 of the bills and claims report.
Thank you.
That's it.
Any more,
Annie.
Donna?
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Ed, Mr. Scanlon. There you go.
Mr. Ed, okay. Thank you, President Downing. My students in school always get such a kick out of it when they found out my first name was Ed, and they thought they were so slick calling me Mr. Ed.
Mr. Ed.
I always disappointed by laughing just as loud as they did. The only thing I have tonight, I would like to bring up for the board's consideration, a quick review of how we do our vote when we're voting on new business. Mrs. McAvoy and I kind of worked out together some items here that would neatly go together, and I think it would be easier for the public to follow. And I'm gonna, if you follow along in your agenda, and we're talking about section A. So instead of having one vote for section A, we could break that down into 6 logical groupings. And it really isn't going to take that much longer, but it'll give us an opportunity to tell the public what we're voting on. So if we were to take section A and vote first on the minutes, and then number 2, vote on the bills. And then items 3 through 8 are budgetary items that naturally go together. And it would take a simple introduction to say, oh, these are budget transfers and items that are of a budgetary nature. And moving on, we could go from there. 9 through 14 are educational items, which include special ed related services, and then items like bridging the digital divide, how that grant money is being spent, and so on. As you're looking through your agenda, you'll see that what I'm saying is how they kind of go together. 15, 16 are new policies, and then 17 through 27 are school-related items that include out-of-district placement. And tonight it's the student parent handbook and curriculum approvals, et cetera. And that again is another grouping. So if we were to, when it comes time to vote on the agenda, if we had, we're able to say, okay, number 1, we're going to vote on the minutes. Number 2, the bills. The other thing this would enable and make a little bit easier is that when somebody has an item in the bills that they need to abstain on or wish to vote no on, they would know exactly where we are. There'd be no confusion. And
Right, Mr. Scanlon, I'd be happy to sit with you and Mrs. McAvoy, and we'll go over that. Okay.
I'm on that board.
Now,
I'm
excuse me.
I'm on board for that too.
Yeah, I think
Excuse
that's
me.
a good idea, but
Okay, fine. What I'm trying to point out, and I told Dr. Clark and Mr. DeGeorge, we were talking, and I said, what I'd like to do is when the agenda comes out, is be able to use that as the template to explain what I'm talking about. I'm not expecting you to do it tonight because not everybody's going to be fully aware of exactly what I'm
Prepared.
talking about. And you need to see it and mark it up. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention, this is what I'm trying to discuss and to bring about, and using tonight's agenda, how it would break down logically. Okay. So
I think it's a
as
good idea.
Okay, as I said, so I know that it's not easy to do on the fly, but rather I'm just trying to point out what I thought would be, and Mrs. McAvoy worked with me on it. And as I said, you know, it was item 1, item 2, then 3 through 8, 9 through 14, 15 and 16, and 17 through 27. Kind of are natural breakdowns. And if everybody would just kind of circle those and look at them and give their opinions, and maybe next month we could do it that way.
Thank
Okay.
you, Ed.
Thank you.
It sounds
you very
good, Ed.
much.
That's all I had. I just wanted, you know, that was my agenda item. Okay.
All right, thanks. Frank, Polino, Mr. Polino?
Yeah, I have a couple things. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. DeGeorge, in section A, number 6, the sale of solar renewable credit. Mr. DeGeorge, do we have a signed contract with the company to negotiate our SRECs?
Yes.
You mean to the purchase?
I'm sorry?
You have to unmute, Mr. DeGeorge.
I thought I did. I'm better muted though, if I must say so myself. Are you asking about the actual purchase and sale, or are you talking about the broker recommendations?
Well, I noticed that we're paying a commission to people to sell our SRECs. So
Sure.
are we contracted with this company to do that? Or are they, let me ask you a question about the generator. There's only one person that really controls the logging in of the generator. Are we the registered generator, or is it this company that does that?
We own that.
Okay.
The broker at $1 agreed upon $1 per SREC. That's the commission that we pay them. It probably in a year is about maybe a couple of $1,000s. So no, we don't have a formal contract with them, but we've been using them for a very long time. They're very, very good, smart folks, and that's the best I can tell you. But we do have purchase and sale contracts, obviously, for the sale of the RECs.
Because I see we're paying them $200. So if it's an average of 200 whenever we do this, because I do my own SRECs and I'm not paying a commission fee. So I was just wondering if that's something that we could do to keep that money in-house. All right. The next question I have is about the salary grant that we received. And I believe it's in number 11. So there's probably about $570,000 in grant money that's going towards salaries at the elementary and Mill Pond School. So my question is, when we did the budget this year, was that taken into account that we were going to get that grant, so we did not budget the salaries for that amount? Or is this above and beyond of what we did?
We create a Fund 20 budget, and in that budget, we anticipate grant-funded salaries. So when we approve the budget for the general fund, we're only approving the portion of any salary that's going to get paid by the general fund. So they're separate. So it's all taken to account and separated at budget build time.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Mr. Riggs?
Thank you, President Downing. I've got nothing right now.
Okay, and I have nothing. So at this point, want to thank everyone for their comments. And we will, Mr. DeGeorge, could we have a motion to go into private session?
Certainly. Be it resolved that a private session be convened for the purpose of discussing confidential legal matters, specifically the current caseload, confidential personnel matters, confidential contractual matters, specifically collective bargaining. The subject matter of these discussions will be disclosed to the public when the reason for confidentiality subsides. The length of the private session is estimated to be about 30 minutes, after which the board will reconvene and proceed with business action may be taken. Motion, please.
Motion, Mrs.
McAvoy.
DeSenza.
Second, please.
McAvoy.
Thank you, ma'am. We are in private session, and folks, we're going in a little bit later than we thought, so I would say about 7:15-ish or so, we'd be back out.
Do we have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All
Opposed?
good.
Okay, we're going into private session. We'll be out in about 30 minutes, as Mr. DeGeorge said. Thank you. And our student representatives will see you back here in about 30 minutes, okay? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular session of the Lacey School Board meeting for September 21st, 2020. And I would like to welcome our student representatives here tonight. We have Caroline Tomko and Caitlin Sabat. Did I say it correctly?
Yes, you got it.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to apologize to the public that we took so long tonight. We had a lot of issues to cover. So thank you for your patience. And at this time, I'd like our student representatives. I think, Caroline, are you going to start? Or Caitlin? Who wants to start?
Caitlin's gonna start. That's me.
Okay, thank you, Caitlin.
So in senior news, we have for the class of 2021, our seniors were emailed information for their yearbook photographs on September 11th. And as for student government, our executive board, we just wanted to announce that during the summer, the graduating class of 2020 and the SGA executive board sold face masks, raising over $3,000 for the food bank. And just recently, our 2020 to 2021 elections were held and our class officers were elected. So I'm just going to go through the list of that. So for SGA Executive Board, we have the president, which is myself, Caitlin Savitt, Vice President Alexis Frazee, Corresponding Secretary Callie Finlow, Recording Secretary Madison Smith, Treasurer Catherine Patterson, Activities Coordinator Nina Fiacco, and for our class of 2021 seniors, we have President Caroline Tomko, who's in this meeting as well, Vice President Megan Donahue, Secretary Elizabeth Reed, Treasurer Savannah Bito. For our class of 2022 juniors, we have President Sarah Kuzan, Vice President Madeline Zeck, Secretary Abigail Fulton, Treasurer Ashley Eckerson. For our class of 2023 sophomores, we have President James Towerdell, Vice President Jared Danko, Secretary Hannah Miller, Treasurer David Murphy, and for finally class of 2024 freshmen, President Anthony Eckerson, Vice President Seth Joes Henchy, Secretary Avery Whelan, and Treasurer Gianna Lizinskowski. And now I'm going to turn it over to Caroline to read for our Unsung Hero Award, who was awarded to Jeremy.
Hi, so I'm going to be reading the Unsung Hero Award. SGA has decided that September's Matthew Blum Unsung Hero is awarded to the hardworking and determined Gerald Cioni. Gerald is a quiet yet diligent student. He is starting his fourth and final year in the LTHS STEM Academy. This past year, Gerald placed first in the LTHS Science Fair, second in the New Jersey Shore Science Fair at Stockton University. On top of these awards, Gerald was a member of the Sea Perch team, Seize the Day, during his sophomore year and placed first overall at the Sea Perch regional competition. He and his team also went to the Sea Perch Nationals that year at the University of Maryland. Gerald is currently a member of the physics club as well as robotics in our school. Within the robotics club, Gerald uses his awesome leadership skills in order to help his Sea Perch team out in many ways as possible. Gerald, is a leader within the STEM cohort and is respectful by all of his classmates. Because of his dedication, he really shows. As an honor roll student, he surpasses all of his teachers' expectations with every assignment or project he turns in. He is truly a role model and sets an amazing example for the LTHS community. It is for these reasons the Matthew Blum Unsung Hero Award for the month of September has been awarded to Gerald.
Thank you so much, and congratulations to Gerald for achieving this wonderful award, the Unsung Hero. Thank you, ladies.
You're welcome.
At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to our superintendent, Dr. Clark.
Thank you, Board President Downing, and welcome everyone to the September board meeting and to the first day of the hybrid A/B cohort model. We finally made it. Before I begin my comments, I too want to extend a warm welcome to our student representatives, Caitlin and Caroline. Thank you for your reports. We look forward to seeing all of you in person very, very soon. And congratulations to all of the SGA and class officers, and also big congratulations to Gerald for being named Unsung Hero. It's an amazing recognition and an amazing award. So again, we have waited anxiously for this day, but finally, we welcome students back to our school buildings. And while we couldn't actually see their smiling faces, I know that our students were smiling behind their masks as we were. Mr. Decker and I visited each of the schools today, and we saw amazing things happening. Transportation went very well. Student arrival was organized and efficient. After the buses finished unloading, parent drop-offs began, and students were temperature screened as they arrived at designated entrances. Inside the buildings, which look incredible, by the way, students know exactly where to walk because our hallways and floors have very clear directional signs. We watch teachers and students interact in the classroom with our A groups because today is an A day, and virtually with technology for those students who are in the B cohort, and of course those who are on remote. I do want to talk a little about the challenges both teachers and students are up against in this new remote world, especially at the elementary levels. And we ourselves feel it as we sit here behind our computers, longing for the day where we can get back to normal. So to start, we know that every child's experience of remote learning will be different, especially as we consider developmental differences, which we've talked about at length. Access to technology, availability of resources, and most importantly, the amount of parental support and input that kids receive at home. So our focus has been on figuring out ways to make remote learning convenient, purposeful, and engaging for our students, and we'll continue to do that. It's important to understand, though, that our students are at times going to be bored. There's no doubt about it. Sitting behind a computer sometimes for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, it's tough. Sometimes they're going to be afraid. Sometimes they're going to be confused, and sometimes they're going to be stressed, and sometimes it might be all of that. And it's really easy to worry, that they're not learning enough or that they are losing motivation because remote learning is challenging. It's hard. But young children are more resilient than we think, and we have to be realistic with ourselves as educators and not be hard on ourselves or our students or our parents for that matter. So, I wanted to say this because, it's the first day and we have to give it a little bit of time. But as we settle into routines, remote learning is going to become easier, and more importantly, we have to remember that it's not going to last forever. And I'm pretty sure we can say this with certainty. But tomorrow for B Day, Mr. Decker and I are going to hit the schools again and visit our second group of students. Before I conclude the rest of my comments, I do want to turn it over to Mr. Brandis, albeit it's going to be recorded, but we haven't had Seniors of the Month since last June, and we're looking forward to our Seniors of the Month for September. So, Mr. Lytle, I believe we are ready.
Good evening. I'm Greg Brandis, principal of Lacey Township High School, and I'm here to introduce the first of a series of Seniors of the Month for the 2020-2021 school year. I'd first like to congratulate Lacey McKim.
Hi, my name is Lacey McKim, and I'm proud to be September's Senior of the Month. I have a lot of favorite memories from my 4 years here at Lacey High School, but I think my favorite might have to be Battle of the Classes. We've won a few years now, and it's always a really good time, and you get to see your classmates that you might not have regular classes with, and you get to really bond and have a lot of school spirit, which is really cool.
Lacey McKim is a remarkable student. Lacey's the kind of student who's always known where she's headed. It's kind of been my job to let's say tell her that in her busy schedule, she does need to allow time to sleep and to eat, and maybe to have 1 or 2 weekends free per year. She's just that kind of kid. Truly outstanding, one of the most exceptional students that I have ever encountered in my career.
Hi, Lacey. Congratulations on being named Student of the Month. I can't think of anyone who deserves this more than you do. You worked so hard in our class last year, and we both know that that paid off. And those of you who don't know, Lacey scored a 5 on her AP exam. So congratulations again, Lacey. Have a great senior year.
Clubs and activities have made my experience here at Lacey High School so amazing so far. My freshman year, I joined the biology club, and I've been president since my sophomore year. And then
My sophomore year, I joined Interact, and I've been vice president since my junior year. My junior year, I was accepted into the National Honor Society, and I was elected to be treasurer starting my senior year. And I like to involve myself in a lot of special education programs, such as the Challenger League, and I participated in the intern program my junior year. I'm part of the girls volleyball team. I lettered my sophomore year, and I've been captain for 2 years now since my junior year. And I also work a job when I'm not focusing on my academics.
So Lacey is highly involved in many clubs and organizations, but I think one of the most notable or the most important involvement to her is with the Challenger League and working with students in the multiply disabled classroom. I mean, she's truly altruistic in her motives there. This is not a resume builder for Lacey. This is truly from her heart.
After I graduate from Lacey Township High School, I plan to attend a 4-year university and eventually pursue a career in healthcare or medicine.
Congratulations, Lacey, on being selected as Senior of the Month. I just want you to know that students like you give all of us real hope for the future, and we know that the promise of tomorrow is in your hands. And in your hands, Lacey, I know it's going to be a good thing.
Hello, we're back here to celebrate the Seniors of the Month for September. I'd now like to congratulate Peter Vanderwerf.
Hi, my name is Peter Vanderwerf, and I am proud to be September Student of the Month. After high school, I plan on going to college, Monmouth University in particular, as I have a D1 swimming team and a pre-dental program.
Peter was a student in my freshman English class. He made himself felt known like right away. He was the very first student to ask a question, answer a question, participate, and showed the other kids this is how you're supposed to behave. He was a great role model for them.
Things I do inside the high school, such as clubs, are chess club. I am the president of it with Vice President Owen Tracy, and I also swim on the varsity team and also swim on the Ocean County Tiger Shark team.
I've known Peter since he started high school his freshman year. He came out for the swim team, and I am so proud of everything he's accomplished. He's a very deserving Senior of the Month. Peter has turned into one of our leading swimmers on the swim team. I hired him to be a lifeguard with me over the summer, where he was a rookie lifeguard, and he's been fantastic and been super reliable. Our swim team state championship run that we did last year would not have been possible without all of his leadership, his contributions, and the heart, sweat, and tears he put into it.
My favorite memory from Lacey Township High School was involved with the National Honor Society when we went to Fright Fest.
He was an excellent student, one of the most dedicated students, and one of the most friendly people I've ever met. I often say that he is one of my favorite human beings. We're going to miss him greatly when he leaves here because he was such a positive role model. He never let anything get in his way. He was a great advocate for himself, and he was an absolute pleasure to have in class. I wish I could have had him all 4 years.
My favorite class that I've taken at the high school was definitely woodshop with Mr. Stab, as I learned a lot of new things that will help me on with my life. And when I got to build the pegboard for the gym and the podium for the leadership of humanities.
Peter's leadership is always by example. He holds everyone to a higher standard. He's the first person in the water. He works harder. He's always asking what he can do. He's encouraging everybody else. His job, and one of the best things he does, is he picks others up, and that's a quality that we're really proud of.
I can't think of a student who would be better or more deserving of this.
I would now like to congratulate our Vocational Senior of the Month, Caroline Tomko.
Hi, I'm Caroline Tomko, and I'm proud to be Senior of the Month. After high school, I'm planning on continuing my education at a 4-year college.
Hi, I am so excited and honored to be recognizing Caroline Tomko for receiving the September Vocational Student of the Month Award. She is an amazing student and a 3-season varsity athlete, so both on and off the field, in the classroom and out of it, she is a shining star.
Caroline is an excellent student. She works really hard in the classroom, but she also works really hard on the field, as well as throughout our student community.
Here at Lacey, I'm involved in the varsity field hockey team and both winter and spring track, and I'm also involved in SGA and Hospitality and Tourism Club.
Caroline is one of those athletes that's a go-getter. She's super competitive, so anytime she's out there on the field or on the track, she's going to up the ante and really go as hard as she possibly can.
She has received the Coaches Award for both track and field hockey, and she has also received honor roll accolades for being such a conscientious student. We are really proud of her, and we're super excited to work with her this year in student government, as she has been a member for all 3 years, and she is going to be our senior class president this year as well.
One of my favorite classes in high school was marketing and financial lit.
Something that sets Caroline apart as a student for me is how kind she is, and how hardworking she is, and the fact that she always gives 110%. Like I said, whether she's in the classroom, at vocational school, or on the athletic fields, she is always kind to others, and I've noticed that she has a bright smile and says good morning to everyone that she comes across. So to me, that makes her a very well-rounded young lady.
She's a go-getter.
Fantastic. And congratulations to Lacey, Peter, and Caroline. And Mrs. Downing, this is right about where we would be walking over to the podium to give the students their plaques. And since we can't do that tonight, we will make sure that we can get them their plaques as soon as we are back in person. So congratulations again. Lots of great stories, great videos, and we thank them for being awesome students. All right. I'm going to, you agree, right, Mrs. Downing? We're going to give them those plaques. Good. All right. I'm going to transition. Last Friday, our families received a call about our participation in the U.S. Department of Agriculture waiver program, which provides free breakfast and lunch meals for all of our students through September 30th, which is really, really good news. So I wanted to reiterate this information tonight because it is great news. And I just want to remind parents that even though the meals are free, they still must be pre-ordered. And it's also important to note, too, that families in need should complete the 2020-2021 application for free and reduced meals, because when the waiver ends on September 30th, a family status may revert back to paid on October 1st. And so we can't stress that enough. There is a possibility that the waiver may extend through December 30th, but we're waiting for some clear information and guidance on that. And if we do get that information, we will make an announcement. But we know definitely through September 30th, which again is great news. And I'm going to talk about, I want to talk about facilities. So historically, our buildings have been used by a variety of groups for a variety of reasons. And last week we had several board committee meetings to discuss our approach on whether to allow the use of facilities during the pandemic. And, you know, as with everything, we are in and continue to be in an unusual situation. So as of right now, we are not going to accept outside groups for the duration of the pandemic. However, when the pandemic is over, we will reevaluate this decision and then we will decide accordingly. And certainly make that announcement. I also wanted to talk about our retirees. You know, we had quite a few retirees back in the spring and just recently actually. And typically at the June or the July board meeting, we recognize our retirees. And we haven't done that yet, but we want you to know that we did not forget about you. And we are planning something special for the October board meeting. And so I just wanted everybody to be aware of that and to let our retirees know we didn't forget about you. And finally, I don't think anyone will be surprised to hear that back to school nights this year will all be virtual. While it won't be the same, I can promise you that our teachers and our administrators are going to make them fun and worthwhile to the best extent possible that we can do that virtually. But I know that we'll be planning hard on those back to school nights. So you will be receiving information very soon. I believe the middle school information went out recently. The dates for all 6 back to school nights are posted on the district website, but to just go through them quickly so you have them. The middle school is this week, September 24th. Lenoka Harbor is September 28th. The high school is September 29th. Forked River School is September 30th. Cedar Creek is October 1st. And Mill Ponds is October 7th. And then just a few more things. I just wanted to remind all of our families that information is updated on our website quite regularly. And so I'm just going to encourage parents to go back to our website often so that you can stay abreast of all of the information that comes your way. And that information is also posted on Twitter and our Facebook page. And to end my comments tonight, I just want to thank our entire school community for the continued partnership that we have. It was fantastic to see our students and teachers interacting again in our classrooms. And I hope that our B cohort students are busy getting ready for what I know will be another excellent day tomorrow. That concludes my comments, Board President Downing.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. And now, Mr. DeGeorge, you have a presentation for our favorite thing, the budget.
Yes, thank you for the kind assist, Mrs. Downing, from Mr. Lytle. We're going to step through a talk on the budget. Hard to believe, right? First day of in-person learning, and already we're talking about the budget for the 2021-2022 school year. But that's because things are always active in the world of budget and finance. Don't worry, those of you at home, this presentation in its entirety will be posted on the finance and operations portion of our website tomorrow. So, Mr. Lytle, can I ask you to advance, please? You can go ahead and do that. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. So it right out of the gate, it is critical to let everyone know that what we do, everything we do, including the budget, is about the kids. There's a sign in my office that says that, and it's the credo that I know we all as administrators live by. Next, please. Go ahead, Mr. Lytle. You can keep just clicking through the first slide. Everything in public education is driven by a calendar, and the budget is no exception. And as you can see, right from the very beginning of July, when we open the budget for this current year, things start moving for the year to come. In August, and albeit at the end, we already distributed what we call data collection tools to all of our budget managers to get them thinking about and working on the budget to come. September, we're probably through January, the next meeting, we're going to talk about formulating budget goals and adopting a calendar for the budget year. We're going to collect the budgets, review them. We're going to have some public discussions on the budget as is appropriate at our regularly scheduled meetings. In February, already, we're going to prepare the budget, tentative budget for submission to the board. And at some point during February, probably the end, the Department of Education will release the dreaded, long-awaited state aid figures. Next, please. You can click through, Mr. Lytle. So when we get that far in March, the budget will, tentative budget will be adopted and submitted to the county office. We're going to review that, prepare. As we know, last year, those of you who tuned in for the adoption of this current year budget know that there were some changes made between the tentative and the final budget, which we will present at the public meeting in May and adopt and submit to the county office. And then before you know it, we're going to begin the whole thing over again. So it isn't available yet, but very soon the budget calendar that is available through the Department of Education will be available on the DOE website. And once we get it, we'll post it to our website as well. Next, please. The next few slides talk about terms. In order to understand any topic, we really need to understand the language. And again, budgeting is no exception. At the very top, it's important for us to understand very clearly that the budget is a plan. It's a very, very accurate plan, but it is a plan no less. And as we'll find out next month, sometimes with our plans, just as in our personal life, those things change. but we do plan for appropriations, encumbrances, expenditures, and revenue. So appropriations are things that we want to budget to spend money on. Encumbrances is when we legally commit something we want to spend money on. The expenditure comes when we pay for all or a part of what we've encumbered. And then revenue is the funds that we expect to receive in a given budget year. Next, please. Fixed versus variable. Fixed is what it sounds like. Those things over which the district has little or no control. Examples: the debt that we owe, the contracts that we enter into, and the many requirements that regulators put on us. Next, please. Variable is, again, what it sounds like. That's over which the district has at least some control. And examples are wages. They increase or decrease depending upon the amount of employees that we have. The benefits also increases or decreases along with the number of employees. Supplies, they increase and decrease depending upon the number of classes that we have. And professional development, of course, increases and decreases with the change in the employees who require professional development. Next, please. Budget creation. So next, please. I don't want to oversimplify this, but it really is, in its truest form, a very simple process. We estimate the total revenue that we're about to receive. I don't know about any of you folks, but my wife and I, before we do anything, we sit down and try to determine what kind of revenue do we expect in our house this year. Then we try to set a plan as to what it is we're going to spend our money on. So the second step would be, in our case, to determine a list of appropriated items. And step three, and this cannot be overstated, this is not the federal government where they can have unbalanced budgets. By law, our budget must be balanced, and therefore our estimated total revenue must equal our estimated total appropriations. Next, please. So let's talk about this current year, 2020-2021 budget. Next, please. Step one. This is the budget as it was adopted in May of last year. And as you can see, tax levy and state aid continue to incorporate the lion's share of our general operations budget. 93% of our total budget is the operating budget. And that's the budget that every month we talk about. That's the budget we provide reporting on every single month. And that's the giant capital expenditures also in that budget, maintenance reserve. And we took $600,000 from our fund balance to help balance our budget. The rest is miscellaneous, which really includes the bulk of SREC revenue and E-rate and semi. Grants is the second of the three components of our budget. Only 2% of our total budget, but every dollar counts. And our big grants are what used to be called the No Child Left Behind, or the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and the IDEA grant, which pertains exclusively to our special education population. The third and final component of our district budget is debt. What I said before, a fixed expenditure, that amount of money that we will repay on behalf of the taxpayers in this school year. And that is about 5% of our total budget. Next, please. Step two, the spending plan, the things we anticipate back in May that we're going to spend our money on. So you can see that Again, the bulk of it is regular programs and instruction, special education, about 11%, bilingual education, about $2.5 million on tuition, about 1.5 million on co-curricular, which is athletics, and stipend positions, health related services for special education students, our guidance department, very important child study team, and other instruction, and our library. Next, please. A little bit for staff training, building administration and central administration, information technology, our facilities, transportation, just about $4 million, and the cost of benefits estimated to be about $17 million, which I will tell you has decreased about 6% from the prior year. And then capital outlay. We have one capital project this school year, and that is the replacement of the original boiler in a wing of the high school. And as you can see, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Lytle, by the numbers, right? I think the pie chart is obligatory in every budget discussion, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. So salary, 58%, benefits, about 24%. So salaries and benefits are the lion's share of the appropriation side of the budget. A lot of others, and capital is only 1.5%, and tuition is a 3.5%. Next, Mr. Lytle. So if you go back, you'll be able to see that the revenue that we estimated for the school year is exactly equal to the amount we anticipate spending. No more and no less. Next, please. So the key to budgeting, as I keep saying, is sustainability. What does that mean in English? It means that we really should not put anything in our operating budget that we cannot support in a year or in future years. So it's very important, and the board is very cognizant of this key to budgeting, and it is that which we have to abide by, because if we put something in and it can't be sustained with a revenue stream in future years, then we're going to find ourselves in a little bit of trouble. Next, please. The board. As with everything else, the board plays a very critical role in the budget build. They do, I find, understand a lot about how our district operates, policies, as you heard if you were around for the first part of our meeting, very involved in curriculum and programs and staffing. They do understand the budget process. And I got to say that I worked with a number of boards in my career, and this one really is very in tune with our budget goals and objectives, very student-centered, and easy to work with from our perspective in building a budget. They offer very meaningful, constructive comments and questions. They are informed. We keep them as informed as we possibly can about what's happening across the district on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis, but especially as it comes closer to the actual budget build. And then we will review and with them, and they will approve both the preliminary or tentative budget and the final budget for submission to the executive county superintendent. So there is a lot they do, and on behalf of Dr. Clark, Mr. Decker, and the entire budget manager team, we appreciate what you board members do to help work with us to build these increasingly more difficult budgets as we go through. Next, please. So next month, how do you manage a budget? We talked a little bit about how you build one. Next month, we're going to talk about how you manage a budget, and that's on October 19th. Mr. Lytle, next. Mrs. Downing, that is all I have. I, as always, appreciate the opportunity to talk about this very weedy, tenseful topic. And we look forward to kind of moving through the steps and keeping the board and the public informed as we go.
Thank you, Mr. DeGeorge, and thanks for the time you put into presenting that. It was a good presentation. Easy to understand. Thank you. At this time, we're going to open the floor to public comment. Mr. Merman, would you like to review the rules for us, please?
Sure, Mrs. Downing. At this time, we'll be accepting public comment. The time limit for public comment is 5 minutes per speaker. You will be allowed to speak a second time when everyone else has completed their comments, should you choose to do so. Anyone who would like to comment at this time is instructed to virtually raise your hand by hovering your mouse over the Zoom view screen and finding the raise your hand button in the bottom of your Zoom app. If you are calling via telephone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. You'll be called to unmute your microphone and speak in turn. All right, at this time, Tom Faulkner, please unmute your microphone, state your name and address, and begin your public comment. Mr. Faulkner, if you could unmute your microphone, you could start to make your public comment. All right. At this point, we'll move on to D. Bahujian. At this time, you can unmute your microphone and make your public comment. Mr. Faulkner, if you figure out the microphone in a little bit, we'll come back to you.
Tonight, I just wanted to state that thank everybody for all their hard work. I know there was a lot of moving parts to the schedule and busing. Everyone that I've interacted with has been wonderful so far. The case managers, paras, bus drivers, and the teachers. My kids had their first day today, and the biggest complaint was the mask wearing. President Downing,
Yes. I'm sorry, Dee, you cut out.
last month, can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Month, Kelly Mayalano asked about a $10,000 donation from the Special Olympics. Dr. Clark stated that it was used for staffing for ESY. How is that possible when in June you adopted into the budget hourly rates for 22 ESY teachers?
Okay, Dr. Clark, do you want to address that? How you use the money?
Yeah.
And why?
Yes. Yep. So it was not just for staffing for teachers, but it was a few extra teachers, but paraprofessionals. And remember, we had to deliver our services remotely. And so where there wasn't enough, we were able to provide extra services. And since we're talking about that, we were just informed that we're going to have another opportunity for grant funds. I'm not sure if it's going to be in the amount of $10,000, but I'm hearing good news. And I know that Mr. Bond is going to reach out to find out exactly if we're going to be eligible for that, and then sit down to talk about how we might use those funds moving forward. And I know there was some discussion about applying it toward Special Olympics and the Unified Games, but we'll see where that goes.
It was my understanding that enrollment was down for ESY this year substantially, and there was less staff. I was assuming there was a surplus.
You know, actually, we were surprised. It was down from years past, but it was higher than we expected. I mean, I'll check with Mr. Bond again, but I did ask him after you asked me that question, just to make sure I'm 100% correct, but I'm fairly certain. Mr. DeGeorge, do you have any additional information on how those monies were expended? I'm fairly certain it was for staffing.
I think it was primarily staffing, Dr. Clark. May also have been used for supplies and other such as well.
Does that answer your question, Dee?
Not really, because the CPAG parents have taken issue with using funds that were a donation from the Special Olympics for subsidizing staff. We feel that the donation should have been used to enhance the special education program and not support the district, what the district already had budgeted. The money could have been used.
Actually,
for equipment.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but we didn't have a choice when they reached out to us. That particular grant for the $10,000, we were told had to be used for ESY. So it's not like we just picked ESY. That's specifically what it was earmarked for. But again, I will make sure that I'm correct on that information. I did check initially, but Mrs. Bahujan, I will reach out to you if that information is different.
Letter that came with the check and the donation to the Lacey CPAG email.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of what you said.
The attached letter that came with the donation to the Lacey CPAG Gmail account. We'd like to review it.
Are you going to read it? Is that what you said? I'm sorry, you're cutting in and out.
I'd like to see the letter that came with the donation from the Special Olympics.
You would like to see the letter that came with the donation. Okay.
Right.
Also wanted to have one more question.
We lost you again.
I just wanted to see if the board members noticed at the last meeting the increased amount of questions and concerns from parents of children with special needs. The special ed department has taken the brunt of the budget cuts the last 2 years, and it's catching up to you. I just wanted to remind you all that special needs students are legally entitled to the same education as a typical student. I have one of each in the district, and I see the difference. The fact that you would use a donation from Special Olympics for staff is just another insult and proves what we have been trying to get across to the board. Our children are not valued the same as typical students. And I just wanted to let all the candidates that are running for Board of Ed that this Lacey CPAG is going to host a virtual meet and greet or a candidates night. If you can email us at thelaceycpag@gmail.com or like our Facebook page. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dee. Mr. Merman?
Okay, at this time, we'll recognize Dawn Stevens. Please unmute your microphone, state your name and address, and begin your public comment.
Hi, Dawn Stevens, 560 Landlac Drive, Lenoka Harbor. I just have a question about the upcoming fall sports season and how spectators or such will be addressed.
Mm-hmm. Again, Dr. Clark.
Yep, thank you. Yes, so the fall sports season officially started on September 14th, and that includes boys and girls soccer, boys and girls cross country, field hockey, women's tennis, cheerleading, competition cheer, and football. The two fall sports, the two sports that typically happen in the fall is gymnastics and girls volleyball. However, that has been pushed ahead to February 22nd. There are limitations as to how many fans are allowed into our venues. I believe that number is 500. We're waiting on some final guidance to make sure that that number does not change. I know that Athletic Director Del Vento is working on communication to go out to our entire school community on how all of that is going to work. So that should be going out in the next few days prior to our first competition.
Okay, that's all the question I had for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, if there's anybody else with public comment at this time, please virtually raise your hand. We'll give it about another 15 seconds or so, and then we'll move on.
Was Mr. Faulkner able to get back in?
He did contact me and tell me he had no public comment at this time. And
Okay.
Mrs. Downing, seeing none at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. We appreciate your help. Thank you. Okay, moving on. We'll move on to board comments. So Regina, could we start with you? And if you have any reports on legislation, could you also speak about that if you have it available? I know you went to a legislative meeting, right? So if you have anything to report.
Yes, that's included, but it's not very much. If you want more specifics, I can email the attachments from the meeting.
No, just briefly, just so we have an idea, would be good.
Yes, I do have a sentence or two.
Thanks.
I'd like to congratulate all of our students and thank you to all staff as we begin the most challenging school year ever in history. And welcome to our new staff members. Class of 2021, may you meet all those challenges that await you. Accolades and congratulations to seniors Peter Vanderwerf, Lacey McKim, Caroline Tomko, and unsung hero Gerald Ciani. Keep up the good work. According to our superintendent's report on page 1, current district enrollment is at 3990. Just 10 years ago in 2010, our enrollment was approximately 5,100. Our district has experienced quite a decline. I would like to take a moment to remind parents and the public, if you send an email to the board president, please send it to all 7 board members at the same time so we can all be on the same page. Parents and students need help? Please ask for tutoring. Don't wait till it's too late. Tonight, I would like to take a moment also to congratulate board member Riggs. In his one short 3-year term, he has completed all the New Jersey School Board Association requirements for certified board member. I also want to thank him for his diligent service. Mr. Riggs has not missed a meeting since taking office in January 2018. And for a person in his line of work, that is quite amazing. Thank you, Mr. Riggs. The New Jersey School Board Association Legislative Committee met on Saturday morning, September 12th. A lot of pandemic issues were discussed, as well as new legislation for Chapter 44 on the new school employee health benefits plan. If I had to do a report card grade for the Lacey School Board communication right now, the grade would still be in the NI category, needs improvement, and that's all I'm going to say about that issue tonight. I'm looking forward to a board retreat if that can be accomplished soon. On item 2 tonight, there's a list of bills, attachment A2. I will have several nay votes tonight for the usual coach clothing allowances that do not require receipts and are not a proper expenditure of public funds, in my humble opinion. And this has been my opinion for over 10 years, both as a member of the public and now as a board member. Whoever allowed that clothing clause into the contract many years ago, and I know this is ancient history, should be ashamed of themselves for allowing public funds to be spent in this manner without receipts. This is the perfect example of a lack of district oversight. Same as the New Jersey State Comptroller's Office reported back in 2014 on the much more expensive details of the solar project. A board member's job is oversight, and that includes the fine details of any contract. This money would be better spent on updating and replacing old curriculum items. See the list on attachment B13. It's pitiful the minute amount of money we have in budget line items for such things as special ed textbooks. Everything I discussed about at last month's meeting about the NJDOE Lacey School Ethics Commission cases was all released in a public Oprah request on oprahmachine.com this past Friday. If anyone wishes to review the case data, search the website under New Jersey Department of Education and it will appear. Please don't forget to vote. November 3rd will soon be upon us. 18-year-olds and others, you can register to vote until October 13th. Visit the Ocean County Clerk site for details. Our next board meeting is scheduled for October 19th. We hope it will be in person. And thank you to all in virtual attendance tonight. Thank you, Mrs. Downing.
Okay, Mr. Scanlon, would you please make your comment and report on finance?
Yes,
Thanks.
thank you. Thank you, President Downing. I'd like to congratulate the seniors of the month and the unsung hero for their accomplishments that they have this month of September. And it finds it very difficult to be saying that it's September already and the sun sets so early, but time moves on. In terms of finance, it was interesting listening to Mr. George's presentation. And as you can all see, it's quite a job. Some other information that he shared with us was we're going to be losing another $1.6 million, $1,600,000 in lost revenue. And the maximum possible tax increase that we can come up with if we were to go to the maximum amount of 2% would be $1,300,000. So along with some other losses in revenue, it looks like we're really going to have a difficult time with the budget because we're going to be short quite a bit, about $400,000, maybe $500,000 less to operate with next year. The state does have an emergency aid fund, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. DeGeorge, but it's intended to help districts make up for lost income, but currently there's no application for them, right?
That's correct.
So that's the kind of thing that we're up against. We have a state that's taking away state aid and then holding out the carrot of emergency aid, but not having a way to apply for it. And that being said, we will be trying to work the best possible budget we can for the students and for the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Scanlon. Mr. Peters, and report on facilities.
Thank you, President Downing. First of all, congratulations to all the bus drivers and Mr. Ed Hannon for having a successful first day. I can't imagine the amount of work that went into organizing the amount of transportation issues with the cohort model that we're using right now. And thank you very much for what you're doing with the bus drivers, who also the teachers with this hybrid model that we're using. I am also a teacher. It's very stressful. It's new to us. And I want to thank you guys for what you're doing also. Peter, Caroline, Lacey, and Gerald, congratulations on your accomplishments. It's amazing what you guys are doing. Lacey, good luck in the healthcare field. With your personality, you're going to do great. I'm sure the patients are going to like the way you present yourself to them when you get in the healthcare field. Caroline, financial lit, sports, vocational field, and a go-getter. That's a description that a teacher gave of you. That's just amazing. And congratulations. Peter, chess club, honor roll, swimming, STEM involvement. Congratulations, guys. That's just a great accomplishment. As far as facilities, we had our meeting last week and we discussed, we have some money put away. Mr. George, did you tap it a little bit of what account that we're using that for? We looked into possibly replacing some doors throughout the building and some other upgrades throughout the school.
Sure, Ms. Peters. The capital reserve component of our fund balance is what the board has tried to create over the past few years. And we have a list of health and safety related projects that we're considering as a committee. Principal among them is looking at our fire and burglar alarm systems, which by and large are pretty old and could stand an upgrade. We're also looking, as Mr. Peters said, taking an inventory of the exterior and interior doors, which we feel could be replaced as well. That's the primary preeminent projects that we're looking at.
Thank you. We also looked at, we talked in facilities about using the facilities, and Dr. Clark already mentioned it. We felt as a board that, well, the actual facilities committee, that it wasn't safe to let the public use the facilities at this point now in time. And once hopefully this COVID thing is over, we'll relook at that and go back and look at that situation. But we don't want anybody in our buildings that we don't have to have in there, and we want to put our students at risk whatsoever. So that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Mrs. McAvoy, and you're going to report on curriculum.
Yes, thank you, President Downing. I was going to call you Principal Downing. Thank you. All right, we met curriculum last week, myself, President Downing, Mr. Polino, Dr. Clark, and Mr. Decker. We were told that the student handbooks were all reviewed and in good shape for the board attorney. And the gifted and talented program, the new implementation, we discussed that, and we invited Mrs. Amos to come to our next meeting to give us more detail on the new program. We talked about a new standardized grading policy for the middle school and the high school. And we discussed the PSATs will be offered for all sophomores and juniors in October for 2 different dates. And we are also offering the SATs on October 14th to any first-time seniors during the school day, which is great. The seniors, I think over 100 seniors signed up already to take the SATs at school that day, which is great. And all the curriculum minutes and all the other minutes are on the website in more detail if you want to find out more about the minutes for the committees. A couple weeks ago, most of the board members, we did a walkthrough through all the schools, and I was very, very impressed. All the schools were clean, all the standards were met, and it shows that the custodians, the maintenance, the administrators, how hard everybody worked with the new guidelines in such a short amount of time. So kudos to everybody who worked so hard for today's opening. And I invite everybody to read the superintendent's report. I love reading it each month. It tells about each school, talks about different things that their school is doing. And this month, I particularly like Mr. Brewer's. He wrote about his parent-teacher organization, which is wonderful, how much they helped him this summer. They provided games and activities for the students. And I just, as a former member of a PTA, I was just really impressed that Mr. Brewer reached out, but all the principals did a great job explaining what their schools are doing. So welcome back, everyone. Thank you, President Downing.
Thank you, Mrs. McAvoy. Mr. Polino.
Yes, thank you. I apologize for no video. I don't know what's going on with my computer, but I think after the meeting, I'm going to toss it out the window because I had problems last month too. So anyway, I want to congratulate our students of the month. You know, it's very unfortunate that we only recognize a select few of students, because honestly, we have all our students, you know, in our buildings every day. You know, they're all exceptional, and we really have some great kids that are in our district. And I know we always, you know, we can only pick a few, but really, in my book, our kids are really tremendous. I want to thank our staff and support staff and our administration for working diligently during the COVID to get us up and running to where we are today. You know, we as a board and myself, we know that there's no plan that's going to be perfect with this, and every day is going to be a learning experience. But we're going to get through this. And as hesitant as I was to think about our kids going back, I think it's a good thing to get them back. You know, the remote's okay, but I think our children and our kids, they need the social networking too. As long as, you know, we follow the rules, I think we might get through this. Speaking of rules, when it comes to extracurricular, you know, our visitors and our parents coming out to the sporting events, they're going to have to police themselves. You know, we could have the coaches and staff there trying to maintain some social distancing and so forth, but we really have to police ourselves. And it's not going to be up to the officials or the coaches really to do it, so we ask that our visitors really, take mind, wear a mask, don't congregate together, keep your distance. That's what's going to keep us going here. I want to thank the board members, fellow board members. We've been meeting a lot to get things going, and I appreciate their hard work. It's never ending, but I want to thank them for that. I want to congratulate our elected officials, for our students, for their class officers. Best of luck to all of you. It's going to be a little bit more trying this year than in the past, trying to get some fundraising activities going for your future events. But I have a feeling that you guys you're gonna work your way around it and really come through. With that, to students, have a great year. And that's about it, President Downing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Polino. Mr. Riggs, and would you report on policy?
Oh, absolutely. I know that's what everybody waits all day for. I want to thank all the members of the public for showing up and sitting through everything else. Now it's time for policy. So everybody, okay. So I'm sure you remember, we talked about this earlier. Anybody was here in the agenda portion. Policy 1648. It's a very large policy. But the point is, when this whole coronavirus, when the pandemic ends, we scrub it as one policy. We don't go in and we don't have to get rid of 10 different policies. So this policy 1648 keeps on growing a little bit bigger. This last month, what we did is we went back in and we fine-tuned the where kids had to wear masks, these sort of things. So if you heard the beginning, Mr. Rizzoli and I were talking about that. I don't think we have to go through that part again. 1648.03 allows for full-time remote instruction, which wasn't there originally. But the neatest one of these was the policy 8561, which Dr. Clark talked a little bit about before, and how we're going to be offering free meals through the end of September. And if the voucher goes through to the end of December, that's through the United States Department of Agriculture, which is also a really neat thing that's going on. So like I said, it's just, these are really big policies. Anybody that really wants to go into the, you got to go on our website under Board of Education, About Us, and then you can go for archived minutes and agendas, and you can find them all there and read them. They're like 70 pages long, riveting stuff. So just be ready to, have a little bit of time for yourself to read it all through. The other thing before what Regina said about certified board member. Yes, I did I guess what I had to do while I was here. The weird part about that certified board member thing is they don't issue it until the spring. So I'm already going to be gone by the time I'm a certified board member, but you're all welcome to come and find me wherever it is that we go when we leave here in the ceremonial burial grounds in the forest where I'm going to walk away through in December. If you can come and find it, just leave it behind. And I really appreciate that. But no, in all seriousness, guys, thanks for, this is all the people at Lacey too. Thanks for giving me a chance to do this thing. And whoever's coming to take my seat, good luck with it, because it's a whole lot of work, as I'm sure you've started to understand. You watch us here month after month, and I know it looks like all fun and games, but there is a lot of work behind the scenes. That's really all I think I have for tonight. And oh, I guess I'll just tell you who was there. At our policy meeting was myself, Frank, and Skip wasn't there, so Donna McAvoy, our alternate, stepped into the breach. And we did that on 4 o'clock on September 16th. And I don't know when our next one is scheduled for, but I'm sure it'll be exciting too. So, okay, everybody, see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riggs. And we will find you. Don't worry about that. We will. My comments are pretty redundant. Most board members have already stated most of the things I have written down. But I wanted to congratulate our students of the month. We're starting off with a bang because they are outstanding. And also our unsung hero, Gerald. Perhaps just a suggestion, maybe for next month, we could have our unsung hero beyond virtual, or well, hopefully we'll be in person, but it would be nice to have seen him on here as well with all the other seniors of the month and vocational month. So just a suggestion. Want to congratulate and welcome again Caroline and Caitlin. They're going to be sitting with us throughout the year as student council president and class president. Looking forward to working with them. I want to thank I think it was Mrs. McAvoy mentioned the tour that Dr. Clark and Mr. DeGeorge provided for us, and Mr. Oliveira drove the bus for us. It was a wonderful tour. We got to see the buildings, all 6 of them. We saw the safety protocols in place, how clean and ready the buildings were. And one other thing is how so many of the classrooms, the teachers had already been in and decorated their rooms so that they were welcoming, whether virtually or in person. Very impressed with all of that. So I want to thank all of you, all the staff, all the teachers, bus drivers, everyone that works for the district, because you really are tops. You made this work. And Mr. DeGeorge and Dr. Clark, Mr. Decker, thank you, because I know personally the hours you guys have put in trying to get this to be successful. And, you know, today was a success from what I hear. I also would like to say, let's see, what else? Just good luck to all our students and our parents that are doing, especially doing virtual. It is very difficult, different and difficult, but we will hopefully see the end of the tunnel real soon and we'll get back to some kind of normalcy. Yes, we are going to have a retreat, Mrs. DeSenza. As you know, we're trying to get set up with Kathy a date, so that will be coming. And at that, I think I'm done. So let's move on to new business. Ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Items 1 through 27, please.
Motion,
next-
Mrs. DeSenza.
And
Are we gonna
second?
break it down?
No, that's what I was just going to say. We'll start that next month when everyone lets me know if you want to do it that way. I think it's a great idea personally, but okay.
Okay.
So Mrs. DeSenza is a motion. Who's seconding?
I'll second it, Peters.
Thank you.
President Downing, what was that again?
Next month we'll break it up in like Mr. Scanlon suggested.
Right, I
Just
mean, right. What was the motion? I don't.
Motion A, we're on A, the first one. A,
Okay.
items 1 through 27. You good?
Are the bills included in that?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I have a motion, I have a second. Could I have a roll call, please, Mr. DeGeorge?
Certainly, Mr. Scanlon.
Yes.
Mr. Peters.
Yes, and I'll abstain on 173251.
Thanks, sir. Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes, except for 238801.
And that is a abstain or a no?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Polino.
Yes.
Mrs. DeSenza.
Yes on all except nay on the 34 clothing allowances and one other item 950166, and I will email you the list.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Riggs.
A yes on all.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes, and I'm abstaining on A1, the meetings for August 17th and August 20th. I was not present, so I'm abstaining on both of them, those dates. Number 1, okay?
Thank you. Motion's carried.
Mr. DeGeorge, I have one question. My apologies not asking during the agenda meeting.
Sure, no worries.
Page 4, item number 7, the concrete work out front.
Right.
In front of the building.
Yes.
Is that a motion to approve it, or is that a deposit, or is that a payment in full? How does that work?
It is the entire project, and we will pay upon completion, which we hope will be very, very soon this week.
Okay, so only pay under 100% completion, correct? There's no
that's it.
deposits?
Yep, No ticky, no shirty. That's the way
All
it
right,
goes.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, item B, page 9. And on behalf of the board and district, we thank you for your generous donations. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second,
Mrs. McAvoy and Mrs. DeSenza, roll call, please.
Scanlon,
Yes, and thank you very much.
Mr. Peters,
Yes, and thank you for the donations.
Mrs. McAvoy,
Yes.
Mr. Polino,
Yes.
Mrs. DeSenza,
yes, and thank you very much for everything.
Mr. Riggs,
Yes.
Mrs. Downey.
Yes.
Motion
Item C, one item, professional days and workshops. Motion, please.
Motion,
Mo-
Mrs. DeSenza.
Second, Mr. Peters.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Scanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy,
Yes.
Mr. Polino,
Yes.
Mrs. DeSenza,
Yes,
Mr. Riggs,
Yes.
Mrs. Downey.
Yes. Item D, programs and curriculum. One motion.
Motion.
second,
Mr. Peters and Mrs. DeSenza,
Yep.
roll call, please.
Mr. Scanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy,
Yes.
Mr. Polino,
Yes.
Mrs. DeSenza,
yes,
Mr. Riggs,
Yes.
Mrs. Downey.
Yes.
Thank you.
E, certificated personnel. And
I'll make
please-
that motion.
I would
Second.
second it.
Okay, and please note on item 11 in this motion, 11 advanced degrees, are being voted on, so congratulations to them. Okay, Ed, you made the motion, and who seconded it?
Mr. Peters did first.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Scanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes, and congratulations.
Mrs. McAvoy,
Yes, congratulations.
Mr. Polino,
Yes.
Mrs. DeSenza,
yes, and congratulations. This looks like a world's record for advanced degrees on one agenda.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, F, non-certificated personnel.
Sorry, Mrs. Downey, I have to finish with Mr. Riggs.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Rob. I already had you out.
How did he vote?
Oh, I voted yes.
All right, Mrs. Downey,
Yes. Okay, F, non-certificated personnel.
Motion.
Second,
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Scanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy,
Yes.
Mr. Polino,
Yes.
Mrs. DeSenza,
yes,
Mr. Riggs,
Yes.
Mrs. Downey.
Yes,
Mrs. Downey, have
Mr. D-
one walk-on resolution?
I was just going to ask for it. Thank you.
Sure. It's entitled Termination of Staff Member, and it reads, move that the Lacey Township Board of Education terminate the employment of staff member ID 856842, effective in 30 days, October 21, 2020.
Can I have a motion, please?
motion,
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Scanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy,
Yes.
Mr. Polino,
No.
Mrs. DeSenza,
yes,
Mr. Riggs,
Yes.
Mrs. Downey.
Yes.
Motion carries. That is all I have.
Okay. Could I have a motion then to adjourn our
Motion.
September?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you,
Good
everyone.
night, everyone. Stay well.
Good night, everybody. Stay safe.
Good
night.
Good night.